And not only have we had extensive growth and created extra wealth, we have shared the success. Economic success has brought unprecedented prosperity to this country. Since this government came to power, a family with 2 children, where the husband is on average earnings, now gets an extra £55 a week in take-home pay after allowing for the increase in prices. After allowing for the increase in prices. Let me repeat. After allowing for the increase in prices, a family with 2 children where the husband is on average earnings after inflation now gets an extra £55 a week over and above what he would got at the end of the time in Labour. Of course, more wealth has been created, but people have shared rightly in that success. So in the terms of what the money will buy, for every £3 that family had under Labour, they now have £4. And that is, of course, sharing the extra success. Greater prosperity also means, in a moment, perhaps if I might earmark the honourable member to be next. Greater prosperity also means that as a nation we can afford better public services than we now have. Since this government's been in office, there have been more doctors every year, more nurses every year, and more patients treated every year in the National Health Service. Spending, well then let's shout the facts from the housetop instead of trying to conceal them. You don't want to reveal the facts because they're against Labour. You don't want the people to know just precisely the extra prosperity, the extra National Health Service. You don't want them to know the facts. Yes, I won't take time repeating them because there's more good news. Spending on people who are sick and disabled has very nearly doubled under this government, again after allowing for inflation. And this October, we gave extra help to the 2.5 million pensioners who need it most, and we also abolished the earnings rule. I give way to the honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has talked a great deal about the unique prosperity. She has talked a great deal about the family generosity and so on, but she failed to make the moral case for what the government has done to 16 and 17-year-olds in this country, tens of thousands of them, without jobs, without YTS places, who have been thrown out without a penny. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we hear the reaction of the benches opposite. Will the Prime Minister tell us the moral case for leaving tens of thousands of 16 and 17-year-olds without a penny of legal income on which to subsist?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is not correct, and he knows it. There are more YTS places in every region than there are young people to fill them. There is no shortage of YTS places, and we think it very much better that young people should go on training if they haven't another job than they should be left idle. So there are plenty of YTS places for some of those 16 to 17-year-olds who have a particular hardship problem because of the homes where they can't go home. They do have, in fact, special allowances, as the honourable gentleman knows. But the policy of persuading young people to go to training and not, in fact, just to be idle is the right one and is supported by most people. Mr. Speaker, this excellent record on social services has only been possible because Conservative policies have led to more wealth being created than ever before and wealth being spread more widely than ever before. And that is a very good claim for any government to be able to make. But, Mr. Speaker, we must safeguard and build on these hard-earned economic achievements. Over the last 2 years, the economy has been growing at a faster rate than we could sustain. Yes, so the threat of inflation has re-emerged and a large external trade deficit has opened up, and actions had to be taken to deal with both. Naturally, not until I come to the end of this, and then I promise the honourable gentleman I will. Naturally, homeowners and many businesses are concerned by higher interest rates, but they are necessary both to cut borrowing and to increase saving. And savers will never forget that in the 1970s, Labour governments robbed them of a large part of their savings by letting inflation run absolutely rampant. Inflation today is lower than the lowest that Labour ever achieved between 1974 and 1979, but a rate which was a cause for celebration for them, because it was low by their standards, is a cause of concern for us, because it is far too high by our standards. And so the absolute priority is to get inflation down. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm obliged to the Prime Minister, but isn't in fact isn't the fact of the matter that the holdback which the government is now introducing on economic growth this year simply the result of 30% of our manufacturing industry being destroyed at a time when North Sea oil was available for investment in manufacturing industry, and this is reflected now in £20 billion balance of payments deficit. When is the Prime Minister going to explain to the House and the British people when the balance of payments is going to be in the black again?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, when we have had growth going too fast, inflation does re-emerge. It emerged in 1973 and it has re-emerged now, and that is the cause of why one gets a very adverse balance of payments deficit. We could hope that manufacturing industry here would fill more of the demand, because there's no doubt about the demand. But I can only point out to the honourable gentleman, manufacturing industry is in very much fitter shape with no restrictive practices now, and therefore much more modernised. It's been able to invest in new technology, and there in fact is higher manufacturing output than the best under Labour, and higher manufacturing investment than the best under Labour. It is not only government that will determine the prospects for growth and jobs. They depend on how well businesses keep their costs down. And the more the trade unions press for higher wage claims regardless of productivity, the greater the threat to our competitive position and to jobs. And I think it's about time the opposition faced up to that, instead of cheering on each and every high pay claim and then complaining if we become non-competitive. The sheer emptiness of the opposition's approach is shown by their policy on credit controls. The truth is that in today's open markets, credit controls do not and could not work. Yes, we all receive a lot of leaflets advertising credit, and usually they go straight into the waste paper bin. But one I saw recently was very interesting, and I happen to have it with me. It says this.
Order!
Shameless advertising.
You know what? Visa card works just like every other Visa credit card. You can choose your own credit limit. Simply tick the relevant box. £1,000, £2,000, or other, please specify. Use it to spread the cost of Christmas, or birthdays, or summer holidays. And there's a nice picture of the Eiffel Tower, just to give you all sorts of ideas. Use it as a second credit card. Every time you use the card, the cooperative bank makes a donation to Labour.
Order! I don't think the Prime Minister was giving way at that point. Prime Minister.
So, Mr. Speaker, Labour's front bench spokesman peddle credit controls, while their PR men peddle credit cards. Well, Mr. Speaker, let's turn instead to the government's legislative programmes for the year ahead. I've got rather a lot more to say, but I'm not fully filling all the time this speech is taking. Just once.
On the subject of credit cards, Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister agree with our Secretary of State for Trade and Industry that in certain circumstances children should have credit cards? Because we do not.
If the honourable gentleman reads very carefully, that is not what he said, and I advise him, it is not what he said. He did not say they should have credit cards. I advise him to go back and read what he said precisely.